Well, now English is a universal language for different nationalities. However, that doesn't mean that your dialogues with different people will look the same. Today we will look at these differences in cultures, and we will look how we should communicate with different people and why we should do that. Why do you think we should do it? Why do we need to know the differences in communication?
Because probably different talents from different countries, they need different approach, and they have different culture, and maybe sometimes that is usual for one client, it's not normal for another.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's different approaches for different clients, and
yes, they have different expectations from us, and it might be normal for us to communicate directly, and it may be rude for other cultures. So we need to know the differences. Okay, shall we start? So we will look at the culture's values and business environment, how we should communicate with them. Let's start with our country, Russia. So, as you can see the graph here, it is a study by Grit Hofstede. He's a psychologist, he's a Dutch psychologist, and he studied more than 72 countries. And these points are a comparison between countries. So let's look at the example. The power distance in Russia is very high. That means that the people that has more powerful are very distant from people with low powerful. For example, if you think about the CEOs, directors, and just lower managers, you might think the managers are directed by directors. I mean, they used to be directed managers. Whereas in other countries such as USA, that we will look a bit later, the power is distributed equally and people communicate equally to each other, like the head managers communicate equally with lower managers, etc. So also that means that in Russia the status means big role. So when you communicate to countries like Russia, you need to highlight you have the same status and you need to respect them as well. Okay, let's look at the individualism. It is relatively low. It means that we are not in individual cultures. For example, if I ask you, imagine I'm your client from USA, for example, and I'm asking you, how you doing? What would you think of you as a company or you as individual?
Individual.
Well, yes, we are getting more modern now, but usually, and we used to be more collectivism country like Asia, and we would normally think about the company. And also, I will give you another example. If you talk to a stranger on the street, and he will ask you something, you would more talk about the famous countries people. I mean, not your own destinations and your own goals. You would talk about general culture things. So, masculinity is about the degree. The society is strict to success, competition, etc.
just to listen
So, and opposite, we're not very masculinity country, and so we care more about the relationship in the society. So, although most of us are individuals, like we previously discussed, we care about the relationship and are not strive to success as individuals, more as a company. Well, it's changing now, but mostly this uncertainty avoidance. It means that we have high score at that uncertainty avoidance. It means we like details, we like to be prepared in advance. So we try to do that when communicating to other people and at the meetings.
May I ask you? You mentioned when let's say when we ask some people on the street how you're doing, it's kind of strange for us, right? In Russia.
No, probably, but
For me, it seems
when
to be kind of strange when unknown people just asking me how I'm doing if I like don't know them. But for United States, it is normal.
yes, it is normal, but previously I mentioned this. How do you think the word you would consider as you as a company or you as an
Okay.
individual? So, but yes, generally, if you talk to people on the street, it would be strange in our country because we care about the norms and rules because it's not normal to talk to strangers in our culture, in Russian culture. So, okay, let's talk about the long-term orientation. We are long-term orientated. It means we like to save, we think for the future, and we are not doing quick deals. I mean, we think in the long term. So, indulgence. It means we have a low score in indulgence. It means that we're usually continue to grow as our parents raised us. I mean, if parents told us that we are born to be here now, I mean, some parents tell their children that they shouldn't strive for more. They should be there. They should help at the kitchen, for example. And usually in our society, people don't strive for more. So they just accept this. Whereas in the USA, we will look at it a bit later, people know from the childhood that they can achieve everything if they will work better. So let's look. Let's look at some rules in Russia, not rules, but some traditions. For example, it is normal to be patient at the meetings in Russia because the decisions are made very long and people, managers need to communicate with each other after the meeting with the client. So you need to be patient in communication. The local connections play a big role in Russia, so you need to establish good relationship before making a deal, rather than in the US. And as for body language, for greetings we use we shake hands in Russia, as you already know, and we need to maintain an eye contact. It is important. Okay, let's look at the USA. So you see on the graph it is completely different from Russia because every point is opposite. For example, there is a low power difference, so people communicate equally to each other, and as in EU countries, they highlight the equality rules and etc. Individualism, they rely only on themselves, and you can know that in communicating to them, so you can tell them more about themselves, not about the company. For example, the benefits for themselves personally. Masculinity, as you may notice, they strive for success, to be the best, and they're always in a competition with different people, rather than in Russia. They don't like rules very much. They can be they can make quick deals. They can think quickly and make decisions quickly as well. So you wouldn't wait long after the meetings.
But it depends, right,
Yes.
on different kind of situations, different meetings. Because as far as I know, they like rules pretty much. I mean, in terms of government, etc. I mean, about these rules.
Yes, probably. I will tell you first that it is
They
theory
respect.
only.
They respect the rules.
Respect.
Yes, they don't break
And they
the
follow
rules.
the rules. They
Yes.
follow the law.
Yes.
Well, you know, most of the countries except Russia probably follow the laws. They all respect traditions, etc. But in comparison of all countries, American people are more open-minded. So they like taking risks and making big deals. They live right here, right now, and they can wake up tomorrow and change their mind. They are ready for this because in Asian countries you wouldn't see that. They wouldn't wake up tomorrow and say, "Oh, I will change this," because they are more long orientated. So
The portfolio will look strange if we have too many companies. It's different.
What?
Jobs. Portfolio will look strange in our country if you have many different companies, many different duties.
yes. For example, in Japan they are very loyal to their companies. So if you would like to apply for a job in Japan, yes, you should know that they shouldn't show them that you worked in multiple companies. Okay, in terms of communication, they are very direct. They wouldn't say very polite words. However, they are very open-minded, as I already mentioned, and you can have a small talks with them. However, don't be too away from the subject because they don't have time for that, and they like work, and so know that in your communication. Well, from the business mentality also. Yes, they like recommendations very much, so you should rely on different clients, for example.
Yeah, I heard that Canada as well and United States, they clients like when you can refer to some how to say it, like
When they give
on recommendations. Yes, it's very important for them.
So
references.
you can highlight that. Also, you should use polite construction words such as would, could, but try to use it less because they like direct communication. Okay. The small talks could be about everything from the weather to football games, so soon it's normal to start a conversation with a small talk. And punctuality is very important as well. I would say in every country, punctuality is important, so try to be on time with your messages. And also, I would like to say that if you receive a message from a client and you see that you don't have time to answer, for example, it requires you to think a lot, just answer that you received a message and time when you will reply. So they will value that.
Okay.
Yeah, like I will be back to you very soon. Like I will
I'll
think.
get back to you.
I'll be back
Yes,
to you.
but just don't ignore it. Just say that, and they will accept that.
Actually, as I know, Americans not so punctuality because I get a friend from United States and he just told me a story about how he's going to the party. He was it should be started at, for example, 6 o'clock, and they just start preparing for the party at 6 o'clock.
Well,
That's usual for them.
yeah, but punctuality is very.
Business punctuality.
Maybe for business, yes, it's different.
Yes.
Yeah, for party and business, I believe it's different. Things.
If you would be punctual, you won't be wrong because nobody knows how they expect it to be.
Hey Michael, maybe you tell us about United States punctuality, etc. How much?
How punctual
I don't know.
are they?
How punctual
How
are
How
much
punctuality they are.
Depends, like which, I don't know, which
Typical,
sphere we
typical
work in.
American,
Yeah.
for example.
Usually, I mean, if you, I mean, there's such typical things that I'm gonna say. It's just if you are, I don't know, if you're working for a good company, you wanna keep the good appearance. You you'll do everything on time, and I mean, you just.
So in the business they are very punctual.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything is personal, you know.
It depends.
Depends, yeah.
Depends.
Right.
It
Well, I
always
think
depends.
it's not bad to be punctual in every country.
Yeah. For example, in Germany, it's very important to be punctual because
It's
very
opposite.
strict.
It's opposite.
It's in their blood.
Yes. They always schedule appointments, you know.
Yeah.
But Americans are like, okay, they're fine if you can somehow tell that in advance that you're gonna be late for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's
As
fine.
long as you keep them informed.
Informed.
If you
Yeah,
inform them, yes,
that's
you
all
have
right.
to inform them all the time.
Yeah, Natalia mentioned that.
Yeah. Then everything will be fine. But for Germans, doesn't-
Even if you inform them, it's not fine.
because, for example, I have one client from Germany. He has like perhaps like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. His working time is completely booked, so he has one appointment after another.
Yeah.
So if he misses an appointment, then he basically screwed up his day. You know? So this is why they don't like it, because you somehow undermine other people as well. So this is great.
Yes, but I would say American are one of the busiest nations as well, so you would better be punctual with them. It's not bad.
Remember, they make decisions very quickly.
Yes, and also when you communicate to them, you can use their first names.
Hi, June.
Always.
Yes.
Okay.
For example, in Asian countries, it's completely opposite. You can't use first names.
Like in China, Singapore, etc. It's like you should use what
Title and surname. Yes, and you should respect that.
Mr. Chan, Mr. Chen, and Mr. Lee.
Yes, yes.
But in Russia it's the
But
same.
in Russia,
I
it's
understand
like
that.
we use the first name. Right?
Not
It's like
always,
we
I
both
think.
Europe and Asia, but we mostly like Asian country, right?
Yes.
If
Actually,
you,
it depends on the
I mean,
organizational culture.
talking about,
But-
if you're
but-
talking about,
But our
Mental.
mentality is very formal, so we have to say the same.
Yeah.
like we should use surname instead of the first name.
We
Well,
like to
yeah,
use
How
names.
would you talk
It
to
depends where you work in
but
Russia.
Russians can do.
But
It depends on their
Yes,
profession
yes.
and age.
for example, if you are, let's say, a physician, then for example, you have to be very formal within your organization.
All right, let's move forward.
Yes. Let's compare it a bit.
Trump and
Oh my god.
So everything is completely different, as you can see, but in Russia there is more emphasis on the spoken word, so we got used to build relationship, and American people require more everything in written form, so contracts, agreements. And as about the body language, Americans use more gestures. And as about negotiations, Americans tend to be more open to compromise, so they tend to make decisions quicker rather than Russians. And Russians take it as a like they.
Personally.
Be honest.
No, Russians are not used to making decisions quickly, and if they see Americans already made decisions and get to compromise, Russian think Americans are
Being tricky.
yes,
Are not serious.
yes, so it's not
Russian.
like formal.
But it's
Unless-
vice versa in this case because they just know what they want. This is the difference. That's why they make decisions. so
Yes,
fast.
and they can take risks as well.
but they can change
In their mind.
their mind. Like Natalia, like we talked with American clients with a few ones, and today they think this way, tomorrow it will be another way. And I
We
think
should remind them.
it's subject to change. I think like Romania, I believe.
No,
Like in many countries, probably.
I think it has to do with their service-oriented country. So if they feel that we're not good, they make a very rapid decision to opt out from us.
Yes.
So
I
this is
don't.
why it happens. Because in
Знаете,
Russia we
последнее
we're not
слово. Какое
service-oriented.
сказал последнее слово? Топ-тап?
Отказываются от нас. So
Uh,
many times clients just said no because we weren't so client-oriented.
Yes.
Because of our past from Soviet Union mentality, very bold, aggressive.
But I guess it's changing right now. Most
Lot
of
of English
young
language,
guys are
culture.
open.
Yes, now it's better, way better. A couple of years ago, it used to be
Yeah.
a shitty situation here, but now it's way better. We're changing. We're like Americans, we're changing.
yes.
Our
Yes, we
country.
can.
Yes.
Yes, we can. Obama said that we can, and we can.
Trump is our guy, so that's fine.
Okay, let's look at Australia.
Oh,
So Australia, if you look at the graph, you see the power distance is very low, like in USA. So people are usually equal to each other. They are very individualistic. They rely on themselves. Also, they try to achieve their success, and they are taught at the childhood that they should work more to achieve better results, and the winner takes all. So they got used to it. I don't think most of our parents say the same, because they usually tend to say different things. Uncertainty avoidance is quite neutral, so you can't say if they like details or not. Long-term orientation, they are short-term orientation because they have a low score. So that means they make decisions quickly as Americans, and open to new ideas.
To changes.
Yes.
To the changes. To the changes.
Indulgence is quite high there. It means that the way they were raised, they are trying to follow that way. But they were raised the way that the winner takes all, though, so they got used to work at all. So what about the features of Australian people? So they're very straightforward. So punctuality is very important for them as well. They appreciate modesty, so when you communicate to them, try to be very factual, but at the same time friendly. So don't use many polite words, be factual with them. Also, the decision-making process is very slow, despite the fact that they make decisions quickly themselves, but in the company they need to speak about that with
think
their
over-
team.
Over
To
it.
think over, yes. Australians are not very formal, so you can use small talks with them and casual greetings, and you can use their first names in communication. So the popular topics can include weather, sports, etc. And from the body language, you should maintain an eye contact with them. Okay, what about the Germany? Germany is one of the most horrible countries to work with because they like to check everything, they like details very much. Although the power distance is very low, which means that people are equal, there is a statuses in Germany, and you need to respect CEOs more than managers, for example. However, they are not used to be guided. Managers are not used to be guided and directed. So that's a combination. So they're very individualistic. Although they care about the company, they tend to strive for personal achievement and personal contribution to that company. They like details, as I already said, so they like deadlines, and punctuality is very important, so be very careful when you talk to German people. And they are long-term orientated, they make decisions very long, be prepared for that. Who spoke to German people? Who can tell us
I can
anything?
I spoke it in English.
Was it
Yeah.
difficult with deadlines?
So,
and
there are two types of Germans. One type who have lived abroad, in particular in our countries like Ukraine or Russia, they are better ones. And there are the worst ones who just lived in Germany, or perhaps in the European Union. So those Germans are very terrible. They are very strict, they like deadlines, they hate English language, they want German, they believe that their country is the best in the world, and their language is the best one. So you ought to speak with them in German most of the time. One time I remember I was asking customer support to find somebody in English, and they told me kinda English here. I don't like English. So it has to do with some culture, I think. But more or less, they have some similarities with Russian. So somehow we do like greetings in the same way, more or less. We're not so strict, but sometimes we're also strict. Sometimes. So, and we like our language too. Some
Kind of English.
kind of bullshit. Кирилл,
Russian.
по-русски.
yes, I think Germany companies are very reliable and to work with, but it can be very difficult in terms of details.
By the way, there is one main difference between Americans and Germans. For example, with Americans, it's not so hard to raise prices or rates, but with Germans, there is one cultural thing. My friend explained to me. He told me if you want to raise your rates, you have to say like, okay, it will be more expensive, but I'm gonna give you something for free. Like you give a bonus for them. So you have to do this way all the time. And you
The
should never,
Germans.
yes, and you should never tell them that you are cheap.
Yeah.
Yes, if you tell them you are cheap or cheaper, then they think that quality sucks.
But it's true
Yes.
not only for Germans, but in sales management, when you say it's cheap, there is no quality.
Yes, but for example,
Everyone loves bonuses. Yeah. They love.
Yeah, but-
Everyone wants something for free. I believe it's not only for German. No.
look how negotiations take place with Germans. So they're trying to decrease the price, but I'm trying to increase, right? So we have different goals, right? So if he tells me I would like to decrease that, then I ask why would you like to do so? He gives me an argument, right? Or he doesn't know. So in our case we just either we don't work or we work.
They say
But-
we are not cheap.
But in our cases, we have had situations where a client, we had to increase the price because it was like we were breaking even and could not produce any profit. So I had to give some, like, please kindly increase the rate, etc. And he got offended by that, you know, because I don't give him any extra service. So with Americans it's fine. I just ask them, please kindly increase the rate, and they're fine. This rate, she's okay. But with German doesn't work. You have to say, I'll increase the rate because that.
So
And
they
they
like
give you something
reasons,
for
they
free.
like that.
Yes, you say you sell the air, but it's like a rule for them, like programming. A plus B equals C. For me, it's strange actually.
Okay, and theory, you shouldn't use first names with them, but I think now you can. Can you? What?
In Germany?
When they talk
Yes,
German,
it's German.
oh, for example, I have friend Bernd, yes, I call him on his first name. Hi Bernd, how are you? We get, etc. But when we had conversations with his partners, they always say Mr. Lesser, Mr. Müller. They never,
So they use
they talk to each other in
surnames.
English, in German way.
Yeah.
Yes, they're not used to. But because he has lived in Ukraine, he knows our mentality, also knows that sometimes we may say first name. But in Germany they say Mr. Wessel, Mr. Müller, Mr. They very formal. But for me, I ask them, do you mind if I call you on first name? He said that's okay.
What about United States? Are they like, I don't know, say Mr. John as well, or Mr. Black, Mr. Green? Like they use surname as well in the business, I mean, or mostly they use the first name? Or it depends.
They may use it in very formal situations, for example, an external correspondence between companies. For example,
Like you mean using surnames?
or you can say doctor,
Mr. Mrs.
doctor,
Dr. Green.
so master.
Okay.
Who's master?
But mostly they use first
Hello,
names,
master.
right? Mostly, mostly they use first
Yes,
name.
of course. They hi Bob. Yes, they say hi Bob. They don't say hello, doctor.
Mr. Bob. Captain Bob.
If you have master degree, you can say I'm a master. I have master my
Master of
degree.
Science.
Yes.
PhD.
Okay, let's move to another.
But you cannot say like hey mister in English. You know, it's kind of offensive.
Yes.
UK.
Okay, let's move to the UK. You see the power distance is very low, they're very equal, and they highlight in every message. If you see the adverts or everything, they highlight different nationalities. It's very annoying now, I think. They're very individualistic. They like being successful, being the best, and they like polite forms. For example, if somebody say, by the way, perhaps you could make these changes if you have time. Most of us could think that, well, if I have time, I would make these changes, but that means that you definitely should do that. That's just how they express their directions in polite form. So,
Could you give some example, probably?
yes, yeah. So, if he says, by the way, perhaps you could make these changes if you have time.
So you can say,
It means
could you make
it's
these
normal for
changes?
them.
It means you must do that.
Okay.
Well,
Just
wouldn't
they
it-
But
would
it's
say-
polite version of saying.
Is there
Yeah, just how they
is there like a version like if you really like if you need some time like I mean I don't know what to say. The same phrase but like that really mean it. Like is there a way to say?
Well, I think it depends on situations, and you should make decision yourself whether to take this risk or not. But in the general speech, they use these phrases. Like they're very, very polite, but they're kind of strict as well.
But we can use the same polite options for US people as well.
Well, US people are more direct.
Yeah,
whereas-
but when we use, for example, by the way, perhaps, what will be their reaction? I think it will be okay with US people as well.
if you use the words by the way,
Yeah.
well, it's a usual word, I would say.
Uh-huh.
If you use a lot of
Would.
could,
Don't you mind
and
me
just
asking for
yes,
example?
just a very long sentence and many these kind of words in one sentence. I think the American people wouldn't like that because they like direct speech.
Actually, Americans don't like British people very much. Whenever they go there, yes, they find difficulties talking to them.
I don't know.
Even in their language, they use Swedish in different way.
I remember that when I was in American family, they thanked me that I know English. I use polite constructions, and their children were shocked listening some kind of present perfect or present perfect continuous in my speech. But they really thanked me for that. I think that it depends on.
I heard that usually most of the time they use past simple, past continuous instead of. They don't usually use perfect sentences.
I know, but they know all the rules.
Yeah.
And
But they don't use it because
I just read how they write and then try to answer the same way they write to me, because some of them are really they take care of their language. They want to use polite constructions, but some of them don't care about that.
It depends on their education. For example, one time me and Alexander had a call with one American person. He's
Black one?
African American.
But
But he was very educated one.
Yeah.
So he was using special vocabulary. Many words used to cut dictionary.
he always started with hello
Emphasizing.
gentlemen.
Oh, that's great.
Hello, gentlemen.
Cyril and Alexander.
You done it? No, it was
Good morning,
Alexander.
good morning, gentlemen. And my
Yes, he was very polite person, and he was using present perfect all the time. And he likes expressions, like I cannot recall them, but he was very
But he's kind of a dreamer, I would say. He's not a technical guy. He wasn't a technical guy. I believe he just he has a goal, some dream, but technically it's kind of hard or impossible to do. But he still wants it. You know, this he has a dream and just follow the dream. I don't know.
Yeah, it all depends on personality, of course. There are exceptions, but I think generally in business world they wouldn't like long sentences because they want something. Just tell the facts and yeah.
stop wasting my time.
Yeah, don't waste time.
And do you speak about just UK people, like native people, but not people from other countries who migrated there and have been living
Yes.
for 5 years, 4 years?
People from other countries that live in different countries now is another topic because they have combination of different
Yeah.
cultures because they choose what they like, what they want to follow, and probably some traditions they can change in themselves. So it's very difficult. You should know that they're not just
They
one
can
or
understand.
It's
the
like
other.
they are mixed
They're
of something.
they're
Yeah,
mixture of cultures. Yes.
Sometimes
Mixture.
something
Mixture.
worse. So because in Australia I had a customer who was really strange, and nothing was true here. But, yeah.
Yes.
It happens,
Yeah.
There are different types of. For example, Mikhail also have had one guy from South Africa.
He's not
It's okay, he was white from South Africa, and hearing never seen such behavior. Very strange guy.
So what did he do?
He was
Screaming?
bullying us. Well, kind of bullying, not physically.
Like laughing?
No, he
What
was
did he do?
he was calling to me, telling me that Mike was very bad. You're a typical Apple
Are you
company,
okay?
which is
Something
shit company.
Actually, he
Your dev
thought
team is
that
shit.
he's a good developer when
He's the best developer. This one old guy who knows everything has been working with iOS applications for the last I don't know.
he asked a lot of technical things, and I tried to explain to him, but he didn't understand anything.
I think
Pretty
developers should have some
Separate.
statistics when developer living in UK developer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Well, what else I can say about the UK people is that they're prepared to change plans when the new information comes, like American ones. They like small talks as well. However, you shouldn't talk about the weather with them because they think you're bored. Or if they yes,
Native UK.
I'm talking about the business culture.
Ah, okay.
So, in most countries, you can start a dialogue with a small talk about the weather and sports. But in the UK, you should avoid the weather topic because they think you are bored with them. Yes, and if they start a topic with the weather, you should know that it's
They
the
are
end
bored.
because.
Oh, the weather today is good. Goodbye then.
Yes.
Something like this.
Yes, you can just ignore this client. I'm joking. You shouldn't, but okay. What else? Igor, what can you add about
I don't think so. I've spent a few years learning talks like that. To be very polite. And it's funny how they do. They can be very mean to you while
Yes.
still being very, very polite. And
Yes.
if they are master of what they're doing, they would do it in such a way you wouldn't understand that they actually did it.
Yes.
Very funny.
They like to read between the lines. And
Also,
like
what about the immigrants? I heard that native UK people, they don't like if you're Russian and you came to their country, just like you'll be a stranger or something like this.
Alien.
It all depends.
I think it has to do.
I mean,
With-
what are the attitude they
Like,
have?
for example, I have some friends who can speak like their English is like mother tongue. So and they speak Russian the same way. And it happens because whenever you come to a new country, you are trying to behave the way you did in your country. So which for British guys, they think that for them it's something different and you may not integrate the way you should because you have to understand their jokes, the way they live, how they live. Sometimes you may find it strange.
I mean,
you
they
don't
fully
accept
don't
it.
accept you as a person.
No, but if you speak normal,
No, they keep the distance as long as they can.
If
But
you-
once you get close, they get normal.
no, but if you speak the language properly and you behave the way they do, then you're fine.
And it's hard to see
But
how they
it's
do.
very
because
hard
it's,
to copy body language within a couple of years living in the country. For example, my friend, he speaks Greek language, white Greeks, but his face is Slavic face from Ukraine. He has blue eyes.
Slavic face.
Yes.
Typical Slavic face. Slavic demon.
And whenever he talks Greek, people think that he's Greek, but his face is different. But he behaves like Greek, and they accept him
it's Greek.
as Greek. Yes. Because he was raised in Greece. You see the difference, but looks different like we do.
What about you? Do you look like a
Myself, I didn't like in the beginning. I couldn't accept the culture. Right now, I'm fine, but still, I don't like. I don't like anything in Greece. But I met Greeks in Germany, for example. They didn't like Germans. I was taking German foreign language courses, and there was a Greek guy, and then I began to talk to him in Greek, and he was saying, "What the fuck? How come you speak Greek?" I said, "I'm from Greece, you know." I said, "Wow." And we had conversations in Greek in Germany, and then other Russians will look at me and say,
I'm
So,
surprised right now I
I
didn't
can-
know that.
I can say that it's all behind the way you behave like locals. Because from my practice, I can say that if you go to the parties with them and always communicate with them, they will actually accept you. But the problem is in Russia we have a completely different culture, for example, and it is difficult for many people from Russia who come to the UK behave that way. But if you can, they will accept you. No problem.
eventually.
Yes.
Or actually, you know, I saw people who live 20 years in one country, and they somehow integrate within period of time. So we need. It's like you get to a prison cell. Somehow you feel like you are lonely, and then once you decide to change yourself, body language or language, first thing you have to learn local language. Second thing, you have to talk with local people. And with the time, you somehow get integrated and you feel normal. And when you come back to your country, you don't feel normal. This is another thing, another story.
Yes. Like you became a combination of two cultures. Okay. Also, I would like to say that in the UK, people like everything formal. I mean, they like formal contracts, etc. Whereas in Russian, we can just agree on something verbally.
Just like by words.
Yes, yes.
Handshake.
Yes, for example, the Germans are also very formal. He told me that if you don't issue an invoice, it's like a crime in Germany. And I told him, I don't give a shit about it. He told me, yes, I know. I don't care.
I also spoke with a few clients from UK, and they always ask me to sign the NDA, non-disclosure, and I told them I don't give a fuck, but they signed it.
Макс, я нужен?
Yes.
Я нужен?
So, they're very right, yes. And also, the British people are welcome to change, and they will accept your mistakes. So, if you say that you made a mistake,
You inform them, right?
yes,
You
you inform them, and they actually okay with that.
Okay.
But
UK
if you-
people.
Yes, but if you say it to German, it will be a disaster.
We
So-
think you're cheap.
You think that you're bad quality.
Just
Yeah.
cheap.
remember
Cheap
this
guy.
client.
No,
Yes,
no.
Dominique?
Dominique, yes.
Yes.
Well, he was very polite actually.
Yes.
What did he say?
A lot of mistakes.
Yes, we made a lot of mistakes and we screwed up.
About
actually.
1 month.
Uh,
One mistake per month.
Well, alright, let's talk about Singapore.
Oh my god.
It's actually Asian country with a mixture of cultures in it. And there is a high power distance, so you should respect the people with the higher status. So if you talk to them on the phone, for example, if you call a company, you can't just ask for CEO, for example, because there is low chances that they will connect you because he
They
has a
just can't.
Yes, you should accept that because if you call to American countries, they would probably connect you to see you and it will be fine.
So the power distance is very high.
Yes, it means the distance between the people with low and high power is very big.
So it's like in Asian country, like in Japan, it's
Well,
like formalities.
we will talk about the Japan, it's very different. They are very collectivistic country, so you should talk to them about the company, about the society rather than their personality. They like rules very much. What else? They are long-term orientated, like we are. I would say. Yes, you should use titles and their surnames when you communicate with them. You should establish relationship before you make a deal, like in Russia, and so it's a good point for us because you need to become their friends before you make a big deal.
But you become friends with them.
you need to communicate with them a lot before making a contract. In other words.
Yes. So it's like long-term thing.
Yeah, they're long-term orientated. They also like indirect communication, a bit like in the UK. You couldn't say directly things. You couldn't say no, we can't do that. You should play with the words and be very polite.
So you
Yes.
should be very careful with what you are saying, with what you are telling them.
Well, but you should just very polite,
How
and
you're
you,
telling me?
and you should be prepared that they will not get you a quick answer. So you might call them a bit later.
So perhaps you can.
So I believe I should call them a few times before
I think
we reach something.
one of the ways could be, for example, you establish a first connection, and you don't sell directly. You just say something like general thing.
About the company, about their company or
Yes,
something,
about
what
the
they do.
company. Perhaps that I have seen that your company has became, I don't know, something has increased its sales by 10%.
Yes, you should highlight the value for their company
Yes.
because they.
And also I see that you have, in your company, you have very good IT department or something. Maybe good for that.
So yes, in comparison with America, when you should say directly, do you need
Give me money,
remote?
give me money, give me
Would you consider
give
a
me
remote
Yeah.
team, a remote agency?
more money, please. More money, money. Give me
We will be
dollars.
sucking your money,
Money.
your wallet, money from your wallet.
And
Tapping.
they're not very open to
What?
changes.
Tapping. Kram. No.
Dumping.
Tapping.
Tap. As A.
Tapping.
So they don't like changes very much. So if you can talk to American people, and they will, at the end of the day, they will say, okay, let's try it. That wouldn't happen with Singapore people because they don't like changes.
They're so boring.
So they like conservatism? I don't know.
So
Conservative.
Yes,
Why?
and perhaps remote team could be a challenge for you.
yes, but there are
It's a big change for them. It's a big step. It's a big step.
there are many foreigners in Singapore, so you can take a chance and reach them because they are a bit different and they can take this risk. And the last country is Japan. It's an Asia as well. However,
May I ask you, sorry for interrupting, Singapore and China, Shanghai, they're, in terms of mental attitude, they are similar, right?
they are,
In the business.
I would say they are similar, and they are similar to Russia and Japan. However, Russia and Japan are more modern, are getting more modern. So they are moving towards USA approach. So the differences of Japan and Singapore is that in Japan the population consists of nearly 90% of Japanese people. So they expect you to understand their culture. So you should know that because they don't see different nationalities very much. So you should know everything about themselves and not differently. So they have a moderate power distance. It means that they rely on traditions and norms. However, they move forward, and you can see that everything changes here because they are a very traditional country, and they became more flexible in the business terms. For example, recently you would need to follow many rules when meeting a CEO, when meeting a director. For example, you would need to walk a particular way to see you. You would need to give a business card in a particular way. But now they accept this, that there are different people and different cultures. And so there are many.
And they are hardworking people.
Yes, they are hardworking people, and that's actually strange, because no. The strange thing is they are very individualistic. Not very, but they are regarded to be individualistic. However, they are very loyal to the company. But that's explained that they choose the company themselves, and so they stay loyal to the company. Also, what I can say about Japan, yes, they strive to success and competition. However, not in the individual terms, likewise other countries, likewise American. So I will achieve the best. They strive to it in collective terms. So they belong to a company and they move forward with that company. Like they are more into competition like a company, not individual. And they like details as well very much. It's the most. It's the highest country with uncertainty avoidance. So you should follow instructions, rules, and deadlines with Japan very much. And it is a long-term orientated country, so you wouldn't get a quick decisions made, and you should establish a relationship with them before making a deal. You should use polite forms with them. Try to be formal. And as about talking to strangers on the street, you can do in Japan. If in Russia, sometimes you can do that. You can imagine that. In Japan, you should never do that because they will accept it as rude, and also you can't say directly to them. You should always play with the words. So be very, very, very polite. And in most cases, you can actually don't understand the person because he plays a lot with words, but that's normal in Japan.
Как фигурально выражается, да, образно говоря.
Да, как играть со словами и обходить все. You can't say directly yes or no, you should say it differently. As an exception, instead of shaking hands in Japan, they bow, so they do like this. Whereas nowadays they can shake hands sometimes. You should use titles in Japan.
But if you like, you're a foreign guy, you came to Japan and you would like to shake hands, I believe they wouldn't mind in the business.
I think they wouldn't mind, but they will highlight if you bow. It means that you understand their culture and you know what to expect from them. And
so it would be better if you bow.
Yes.
Rather than shaking.
Yes. You should better follow the traditional things of culture because it will be better for you. So what I would like to say then that you should respect the habits of the client because some people cannot understand the way you talk or communicate because they just haven't had it before, and you should try to adapt your communication style. For example, you should be very, very polite with the British people, with Asian people. However, you should be direct with American, Australian, or else? German, yes. In all cases, you should avoid conversation about religion, racial issues, and politics. Never talk about that.
And weather.
Well, in the
About
UK,
Indian guys.
yes.
About
Try not to be racist.
Yes. Also, as already mentioned, try to answer the message quickly. If you don't have time, just let them know when you can have the time.
yeah, and let them know that you don't have time, but you received the message, like something.
No, just tell them that I received your message. I will get back to you on.
A bit later.
No, I think it's better to give a deadline, but a bit later would be fine as well. But not with German people.
A bit later, and you come back in a week.
Yes.
Or two.
Where the fuck was you?
Yes, and also you better check every message for spelling before sending, because it can be crucial for some nations. And for example, I would say it wouldn't be a problem for American. I think so.
I hope so.
They will forgive you. But it will be a problem with German people, because they will think you're not professional and you have a poor quality just because you made one mistake. So it's better to check. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the lesson.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Have a good one.
It was very interesting.
Андрей, дайте iPad сейчас.
Сегодня нет уже.
Давай тогда пока у них оставлю здесь, Ваня перекинет себе, может,
Проблем.
а потом...